The Great Canadian Outdoors. Perfect inspiration for some scrapbook layout pages. Join me in the craft room and I'll show you how I used some quilt pattern ideas to inspire some creations. Subscribe to my channel to get notifications as I add additional content. See you in the craft room. For quilt patterns, I usually grab a sketch or idea off the internet and I do a quick draft. From that, I will make a more customized layout that I can interpret and then resketch, and then I digitize it and I add it to a computer printout for you ladies that you can request the PDFs. So for this PDF print, you can email me. My address is in the description below, and I will send it off to you. If you are a member of my PhotoRecall virtual crop group, I usually add these to the links within that group under my files. So you can go under Quilt Pattern Maple Leaf Sketch. Now when I did this original sketch, it came out really nice with some ideas. And then I thought if I wanted to make a quick border, I redid it with a smaller printout to give you the border. I am going to go through the cut patterns on this sketch. The larger one itself is just more blocks, more things. The cutting techniques are the same up until the last little point, which is this bit right here, which is basically just a free cut with your trimmer to get a bit of an angle on your piece. And the only thing I did to make it really different and amazing is at the end I go in and I grab one of my punches and I will slide it in on the groove on the corner, just like so, and then give it a punch to give me that exact sharp 90-degree corner I need to insert it into my page. And then I can clip my length that I want accordingly afterwards. So that's the only difference between these two sketches, other than the fact there's more blocks you're going to start with. You're going to start with 6 2-inch squares. So you're going to start with 6 inches by 2-inch strip of paper. So let's go on to this sketch. And I'll set it aside for your cutting instructions. And we'll go from there. Should I show you the final products first? I guess so, eh? So what we're making, if you make the full maple leaf, it will give you an embellishment about 6 inches by 6 inches, which will sit nicely on a page where you can add your little photos and dance around. It can be in any corner, straight in the center, and you can put your title across. As you'll see in these sketches, if you print on a nice photo quality paper, I use a photo cover stock quality paper, and I can clip these out and add them directly to my page as a title afterwards. So that's one idea with the full maple leaf sketch, and this is the one we're going to be doing today. Will give us this little Canada border across here. Okay, so to do that, let's start with our bits. Now for this border, I'm using the Alpine Mountain border punch to create this strip. The lower strip I made with the Dips and Diamonds border maker cartridge, and once I punch the border, I cut it at 3/4 of an inch afterwards. That's 3/4 of an inch. And then on this one here, I just added some strips of paper to meld them together to hold them so I can add them to my designer sheet after. From my 2 by 12 inch strip of paper, I'm going to cut the blocks I need according to my instructions. It's to start with a 2 by 6 inch strip of paper, so I only need half of this, and I'm going to cut 3 2-inch squares. So from this, I'm going to grab my personal trimmer, and I'm going to grab my 3 2-inch squares. So from this, according to my cut instructions, it says take 1 2-inch square and cut it in half diagonally. So on the diagonal, you can follow it. You might see where your trimmer's been cutting across your cut lines on your trimmer. You can verify that by using your little indicator guides, both sides. Make sure it's going through the point nice and square, and once you have that, I'm going to cut it. Well, usually if you're cutting something on a diagonal, sometimes it's nice to start a little bit in the middle and cut out and then out again so you don't damage some of your tips. So I cut 1-inch square in half diagonally, and then I'm going to take 1 square and I'm going to cut it into 4 1-inch squares. So from here, I'm cutting it in half, so I'm going to slide across the 1-inch by 1-inch marks on my trimmer, cut it, and I'm going to do that again in the other direction to get my 4 1-inch squares. And I'm going to set one of the 1-inch squares aside, and then I'm going to cut 2 of the 1-inch squares diagonally to get 4 pieces, and I'm going to have 1 spare. So I'll set the spare to the side in case I make a mistake. But other than that, I'm going to line again this up, go down, cut you, and then do that twice to have my 4 little pieces that I need here. One of the 2-inch squares I have to cut as per the diagram that you see here. So I took my square and I'm going to line it up on the square grid on my trimmer, and from that I'm going to go, let's say from this corner here, I'm going to go out to the 1-inch mark here, mark a little tag, and the 1-inch mark there, and mark those 2 spots. Now I'm going to cut with my trimmer from the point, I'm putting that one on my cut line, out to the first mark. So let's slide that on my cut line. Double check that I'm in a good spot. Yes, that looks good. And from this side on that hash mark. So that's my first cut. And then I'm going to rotate it, and I'm going to do the second cut again from my point along that angle again. Double check that one. Looks good. And this will give me my 3 pieces as per my cut line. After that, we just add adhesive and we assemble as per the diagram. Now you can assemble straight away on your sheet of paper that you're working on, or you can assemble on top of your grid sheet and use that as a pattern and then add that pattern to your page after. The best way to do that is to cut along the bottom edge, but as you go along the outside tips here, in case your squares are not exactly the same size as my diagram, I would cut in a little bit here. As long as that bottom edge works, you can cut inside a little bit. You'll have a bit of an overlap and it'll sit nicely. And then this pattern can be placed on your page afterwards. Okay, so for your assembly, again, we're just going to start by following. Now I'm going to take my 0 centering ruler, just verify where my center is on this one, and build from there. And from that, I'm going to use my repositional tape. Easy enough to build. Quick and simple, one maple leaf. Looking forward to seeing what images you put on your pages to create your final design. For this design, I used the Plains paper pack, and then with the independent leaf punch that Creative Memories had made in the past with the oak leaves and the maple leaves, I punched some extra maple leaves for the bottom. But that's the sketch. We'll see you soon.